Hello, everyone. This is the Cajun Gaming Guild, and today we are going to continue our Scratch for Absolute Beginner tutorial series that I've started. And first video, we went over the first three categories here on the left, but today we are going to continue down the line and explain everything as we go. Okay, each of these get explained to a certain degree. All right. So when green flag is clicked, I think we might have gone over this a tiny bit the last time, but it's basically it's called a hat. Okay. You'll see that there's a round top. All of these, except for like a couple, have those. And these are going to start your code in any type of programming that you need. So when you see one of these, it means anything underneath this is going to fire off. And the green flag is how you start your programs. So anything underneath this would fire off. And then if let's say you had something from this that's going to change a variable off in the banana here, for instance. And then, but when the banana receives this message that that this variable's changed, it also does some code and fires off something that's going to change something in the apple. And then that's how games work. You start it somewhere, so the green flag is where you start it. Then from there, the messages just bounce back and forth from sprite to sprite, and that's how your program will run. So the space key here, we'll go to this one next. It's pretty straightforward. It's whenever a key specific on your keyboard is pressed. So all the arrows are there. Any key at all you could put, like, so press any key to start, let's say. Or all the letters, all the numbers are here, and you can just pick whatever you want. And when that specific key is pressed on your keyboard, for instance, if I'm pressing space, anything underneath this would fire off. When this sprite is clicked, okay, well, that's based on whichever sprite you're on. So right now I'm on the apple. So if I was to click the apple, anything underneath this would happen. All right. So if you wanted the variable apple to go up 1 point, so that's how you make a clicker game, a simple clicker game. You click on this, and apple would go up 1 point value. On it again, it would go up again, etc., etc. When the backdrop switches to backdrop 1, okay, so that means if you had more than one backdrop and you wanted to, in the first backdrop, you had some code running off, but when you switch to the second backdrop, you wanted your character to get all excited because he beat the stage or something like that. Well, that's how you would program that. You put this down and you put a bunch of code underneath. When loudness, same idea. When you set your music and sound up, if you have a choice where you can increase the volume, etc. Well, if the loudness ever gets to a certain point, well, you can have code underneath that runs it, and the same with the timer. When the timer reaches a certain point, and 10 is very small, the timer's constantly running, by the way, and I'll show you that in a second when we get to it. So this one here, there's some of this code that I just never use. I don't see the use for it. I'm not saying it's not useful, but I don't use it. When you receive message, this one here you're going to probably use quite a bit, okay? And broadcast message. And then there's broadcast message and wait. So what this means is you can actually make a message. So let's just say I want to spawn the apple, right? And you can put whatever you want here, one word, whatever. I just always try and keep things organized so I know what it means. When I see it, I'm like, okay, if this code fires off, well, I want to spawn the apple. So over here on the banana, like I said earlier, there might be some code that when you go through the process, it gets to a certain point. And this specific block is sitting there. And when it gets to it, well, it's going to broadcast to every single sprite in your project, and it's going to say spawn the apple. So wherever this is, let's say this was on the apple, because it is, then what's going to happen is underneath this. Does it mean your apple's just going to appear? No, it does not, because unless you actually put that code for the apple to appear, to show itself, then that's totally up to you. But that's obviously if you put something like spawn the apple as your message, well, that's probably what your goal is. So underneath here, you might put go to front layer, show, go to X and Y positions, blah, 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 blah. And then that way there your apple would go there, it would go to the front layer and then just show itself. And then, well, that's what spawn the apple meant. And you can do this for anything. You can use this for basically anything. Anything kind of broadcasting message that you want. This one is the exact same thing, except once it happens, it actually just waits and doesn't continue after this, right? All right, so that's that one. Control is next. Control is definitely, in my opinion, probably one of the most important of the categories. Um, Waiting, you're going to use this quite a bit for a lot of different things, okay? For animation, you want to make timers, anything like that whatsoever, you're going to use it. And you can change this from 0.0001 to a million if you want. It's totally up to you. And it's that simple. You're just going to put it where you need it to be. It'll do this before it continues on its path. So if it says wait 10 seconds, it's going to sit here and wait 10 seconds and then it'll go. That's how that works. Repeat 10 times, let's say, or repeat 5 times. Anything that you have in the mouth of this will happen this many times. So you could put 10, you could put 100, you could put 1,000. It's totally up to you. And let's say you had something like, I don't know, change the variable apple by 1. And then you click this repeat button. It's just going to add 1 to apple 10 times. So at the end of it, apple should be 10 if it started at 0. Because that's what the repeat button does. Forever, well, exactly what it sounds. It's very much like the repeat. So anything in here is going to happen, but it's not going to happen 10 times. It's going to happen forever. And it'll just keep looping and looping and looping and looping and looping. So if you put, change your apple variable by 1, well, you're going to just sit here and watch it, and it's going to go up and up and up and up and up and up forever, forever and ever and ever. So if you're making a clicker game and like you want to the player to have an auto clicker, for instance. Well, you wait one, so every second, so usually that's how auto clickers work. Every second you're going to click so many times. So wait 1 second and then change Apple value to, let's say, 1 per click at the first upgrade. The second upgrade, you might want it to be 3 per click, so that change it to 3, etc., etc. And then forever, every second, it will just increase by that amount, and that would be like your auto clicker, right? So if then else, and it's big bro. If then else, oh sorry, if then and then if then else. All right, 2 different blocks, but yet basically the same. So in here, you're going to be able to put an operator. So equals to, we're going to cover operators there in a little bit. Maybe even in the next video. I haven't really figured that out yet, but we're going to see. So if you put an operator like Apple is equal to, if Apple is equal to 10, so if Apple, the value of Apple ever gets to 10, then I want you to spawn the banana. Let's say broadcast spawn the banana. So what it's going to do is whatever you put in here, it's going to have to happen. So until this happens, this will never happen. Whatever's in the mouth. Okay. So it'll wait, or if you don't have it in a forever loop, it will not wait. It will not auto update. So if you put this in a forever loop, it'll just constantly be waiting and waiting and waiting for Apple to be equal to that number. And if it never happens, this will never happen. So if you have bugs in your code and you're wondering, well, why isn't this banana spawning? Well, it's because Apple, the value of Apple has never ever reached the amount that you wanted it to reach. Therefore, this can't happen until it does. Okay? If then else is basically the exact same thing. So everything in the first mouth will happen as long as this happens. But if it doesn't happen, you want it to do this instead. So if Apple reaches 10, spawn the banana. But if it doesn't get there, hide the banana. All right. So all you're going to do is just keep the banana hidden. And that's it. Or make the banana randomly spawn all over the place, but stay hidden. that when it appears, it could appear anywhere. It's again, it's whatever you have planned for your game. That's completely up to you. All right, good enough. So after that, we have the wait until button, and that also needs an operator for it to work. So wait until banana shows itself, or banana is equal to 5, or whatever you want to put there. And when that happens, then you want everything underneath start. But until this happens, it will basically, any code that's running here will stop and wait until this actually happens, and it will not keep going until it does. All right. So that's another important one. Repeat until is pretty much the exact same thing. Okay. But this one here, it'll just fire off everything in here multiple times until this is happening. So repeat until Apple is equal to 10 means it'll just keep doing this until Apple is 10, basically. So whatever you have in here will happen a billion times if Apple does not reach to 10. All right, so that's what that's used. This code right here, this one's kind of important. You're going to use it for multiple things, okay? But it's always for shutting something off. So the stop all button will shut down your entire game, every single sprite that you have here that's running code, every piece of that code will stop. It's like hitting this stop sign up here. This is what this does. All right, stop all, everything stops. Then you can click the drop down menu, and this one's kind of important. So let's say we have a couple of hats here, okay? And underneath the hats, we have some code that's running that's all full of goodies here. There's a whole bunch of code in here. Each one of these in one sprite, all right, is called script. They're each separate script. This is a script. This is a script. This here, because it's not attached to either or two, is a script. There are 3 different scripts, all right, in the same sprite. And each sprite can have many scripts. Sometimes you only have 1 script. Sometimes you might have 5 scripts. It's totally up to how you program, all right? So what this does is wherever you attach it, it will stop that specific line of code. Everything here would stop, all right? Everything else in that sprite, though, will continue like usually, all right? It's just only this one's going to stop. So then you have the last one, which is basically just the opposite. This one here is going to keep going, but every other one in this specific sprite will stop, okay? Not the bananas, just the apples. Only the ones in the sprite that you're in, right? So those are the 3 different methods that you can use to stop. The stop all function, the only time I've ever used it is for at a game over. All right, so you died. You want your game to fully reset and start over from start to start again so that the player can play again. So this would stop all of your script and then maybe just do a reboot or of some type, some kind of reboot function that you might already have in the events, and then it would restart your game like you, right? That's where I would use that. When I start as clone, so this one here, if you've watched my interactive menu video, and you probably will, because it is a very good video and it really talks about clones a lot. So if you really want to learn about clones, go watch that video. This one here is pretty straight up. If you know anything about cloning, so when you start as clone cannot ever happen until you create the clone. So somewhere in your code, you're going to have create clone of myself, okay? And when that fires off, it's going to go right to this hat. It would be like the broadcast message earlier. The broadcast hits the hat of that matches it. So when you create clone of myself, when I start as clone, but there's only one difference. This has to be in the sprite, okay, as well. I can't take this when I start as clone and put it into bananas if I'm creating a clone of myself in Apple, all right? It has to be in Apple somewhere instead. But, and I know this is going to confuse some of you maybe, you can actually click on this and you can create a clone of bananas from Apple if you want. And what that was, so then When you start this clone, you want this in bananas because it's going to shoot off a message in bananas, like create a clone of you, all right? And then so when you go to bananas, when I start this clone, all right, and everything that you want to happen will happen under that. Okay? Then with clones, because they start to build up, you're going to end up with clone and clone and clone and clone. Watch, I'll show you. See, clone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The more I click on it, the more clones are being created, and they're all bananas. So if I move this banana now, there's 23 bananas there. All right, I'm not going to show you all of them, but they're there. So what happens is when you get to 300, and I have this clone counter, it's an extension from Scratch, okay? When you get to 300 though, your game breaks. It will no longer function properly. It's going to cause a whole bunch of headaches, and you're basically going to have to figure out a way to fix it. All right, the only way that I've found to fix it that works the best is, well, when you're done with this banana clone, so these bananas are spawning, they're cloning and they're falling from the ceiling, and you have a basket and you're trying to catch them. As it hits the basket, they're disappearing. Well, in some instances, you're just going to use the hide function and they're just going to hide. Looks like they disappeared, but you never actually got rid of them. They're just hiding. And if you did that with clones, well, after 300 bananas, guess what? Your game froze up and it's completely useless. All right. So the best way to take care of this problem is, okay, well, you're going to ID each one of these bananas. So this is going to be clone 1, clone 2, 3, clone 4. That is done through a process. If you watch that video I was talking about, it will explain it. All right. And then that way there, when you hit the basket, if this specific clone ID number was 1 or above 0 or whatever you want to put, then I want you to delete this clone. All right. And bam, when it hits it, it disappears like it should, but it's actually just gone. And it will subtract the number up here. All right. So it'll come down to 21, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, you'll clear all your clones out. And bam, then that way there you don't get clogged up. But what I do see more times out of none in videos is people when they don't really use their clones properly and they never delete them, and then they end up with a problem down the road. Okay, so and again, you're going to want to conserve the amount of clones you have in your game. So if you're using a bunch of numbers on your, so you have gold, you have hit points, you have um, I'm not sure, mana, and then you have a menu with a crap ton of stats here, like 15 stats, and everything else, and every one of those things is running clones. Well, eventually you're going to overdo it, and it doesn't matter how good your conserving is, you're just going to run out of clone memory, right? And that's not going to work for you. So you have to make sure that you use clones when you can, but sometimes you may have to use other methods to do what you need. It's a good balance. It's going to enable you to create a very big game. If you want just a small, teeny, tiny game, then you should be okay anyway. All right. So that's clones. Hopefully that didn't confuse you much. Sensing. All right. Sensing. We're probably just going to end it here. I'll go into operators in the next video. Okay. So sensing, touching mouse pointer is straight up what that means. Okay. So if the banana. So right now I'm in the apple. I'm just going to move this over. Now I'm in the bananas mode. Okay. So if my mouse pointer is touching this banana, and I better clear them out. There. I was going to say, which banana am I talking about, right? So that's a whole other video in itself. So if my mouse pointer is touching banana, so if you had an if statement, you put this as the operator, okay, what it's looking for, then you want whatever's underneath the fire. Okay, so if touching mouse pointer, well, go to the mouse pointer and follow it around. Okay, I want to do that. Or if it's touching the mouse pointer, throw the banana Y value plus 100, making the bananas jump into, right? Again, totally up to what you want it to do. Touching color is basically the same idea. And actually, let's finish this off because there's more under here. So if touching the edge or if touching the apple. All right, so now we're still talking about the banana, not the mouse pointer anymore. So if the banana was ever touching the apple, I want you to do, okay, I want you to destroy the apple, or I want you to just lose one life off the bananas. And then the other one is the edge. The edge is simply the side of your screen. So if the bananas ever get to a point where let's say they were falling from the sky and they touch the edge of the screen on the bottom, well, I want you to take it 1 hit point away. The person failed to catch them. Okay? So that's how you would use it. Touching color is the same idea, but you can put whatever color you want it to be, right? And you can actually, if you already have something in the game that you already know that's what you want it to touch, or you just use the dropper function, click on that apple, and now that color of the apple is here. So whenever the banana touches that specific color, lose a hit point or whatever you want to have coded there. Okay. Same goes for this. It's the same idea, but whenever such and such a color, so let's say whenever the yellow of the banana is touching the red of the apple, this has to happen. So when the black outline on each edge is touching, don't do anything. But when the yellow touches the red, we want you to do this. All right? So that's how that would be. Distance to mouse pointer is, okay, from the banana to my mouse pointer right now, it is blah, 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 blah distance. Okay, it's going to give you a value. And yeah, see, right now it's 225, but that's 225 from the banana to the edge of the screen because it can't go beyond the edge of the screen. I could have my mouse way over here and it's still going to be that number. Okay, but it only registers to the edge of the screen, 205 or 20, whatever. Okay, so that's what that would be. You can put distance to apple. So what's the distance between banana and apple right now? 133. Okay. So this is how in a game like a tower defense game, you have the apples are coming to attack the banana king. And they're coming down the path, and you want the banana towers to start firing at the apples to destroy them as soon as they get within a specific distance. The circumference, all right, around your apple or your banana tower. And once it gets in that range, you want it to start firing at the apples. Okay, well, this is how you're going to be able to tell your code. Okay, bam, that apple is within that distance. And when it is, then you can fire off the code to shoot at the apple, right? So that's one of the use of that. All right, this one here. Okay, so what's your name? Well, we're going to put in, and I'm not just going to type this in here. You're just actually going to click on this. Going to open up a bar here that you can actually type in. So let's put Henry as our name, and we're going to hit that. Now, what happened? Well, it's gone. It's because the answer is here in a button. It's basically a variable, all right? And answer Henry, all right? You can see it up here now. And you could use this wherever you want. So an if statement, if variable, let's say name is equal to Henry, and then this is going to happen. And then what you would do is you would have this answer thing as the name. And well, if it's equal to Henry, bam, you're going to keep going. But if it's not, then you're not going to keep. All right. So this could be a password. Let's put ask what's your password and wait. And then a person could type their password. It would go into this right here. And then you could use this somewhere else to check to see about the password. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of a few blocks. All right, key space pressed is basically the same as earlier, very similar, except this time you're just checking to see whether it is pressed. And all the arrows, all the keys are here, numbers. Okay, so if the key space is pressed, I want you to move Apple 10 space. Mouse down, so these are usually booleans. These hexagons are usually, I think they're hexagons. These are usually Boolean. They're true or false. Okay, that's it. It's either pressed or it's not pressed. The mouse is either down or it's not down. Okay, it's either touching the mouse pointer or it's not, or it's touching the color or it's not. It's a yes or no answer. So anytime you see this shape anywhere in any of these, it means it's checking for a yes or a no answer. That's all it's doing. And if it gets whatever answer, then it's going to process that answer somewhere in your code, whether it be yes or no, and do something about it. Okay? So that's what the symbol means. Mouse down is, okay, while the mouse is pressed down. So you might have a game like a clicker game where you actually have a timer that fills up for, let's say, 5 seconds. So while you hold the mouse button down, the timer's filling up. Oh, there's a monster coming. You got to go kill it. So as you let off of your mouse to go kill the monster, well, the timer stops because you have to hold down your mouse button. So it's going to check, is the mouse down? If it is, then continue increasing the bar or increasing this or deducting that or whatever you have set up. And then once you go click the thing and do your thing and kill the monster and come back, well, when you push mouse down again, it'll continue go up, right? So that would be where you have a function for that. Mouse X and mouse Y is exactly what it sounds like. It is the mouse position where it's at on the screen. So if mouse X is 0, 0, it's roughly center, or mouse X and mouse Y 0, 0 would be basically dead center of your screen, okay? And anything to the right, X goes up. Anything to the left, mouse X goes down. Up is Y values and down is Y values. Okay? So that's what that does. It's going to tell where they are and give that information to whatever's looking. Set drag mode, okay? In this full screen mode, you cannot drag your sprites around. I can't drag them. So for a clicker game, if somebody's clicking really fast, you'll see if when it's not in full screen mode, you'll be able, sometimes these will move because somebody clicked on them too quick and it actually moved right. It threw everything all out of whack. And if you don't have a way to reposition this, it kind of sucks for you because, well, your game is going to be messed up. So in full screen mode, automatically it's not draggable. So that's good. But you can set it to be draggable. All right. And you can also set it to be non-draggable here, I believe. But that's how you would do this right here. Put that in your code. Loudness, if you're looking for a specific loudness, so you'll see it's changing based on my volume into the mic. So the louder I am, the higher the number gets. But if I said don't say anything, it went right down to 1. It's measuring the loudness of my voice. Timer is exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to get rid of this. Timer is running all the time. As long as this sprite is open or this program is open, and you've created a new file, a new project, this timer starts right away. It doesn't stop until you want it to stop, and you can't actually stop it. All you can do is reset it. So you click this button, this reset timer, it just resets it to 0. So the function for this, there are probably things you could use it for, but personally, I make my own timers. Not that difficult to do. I'm going to be making a video in the next day or two about timers. So if you're interested in learning how to make your own, just watch that video, okay? Backdrop number of stage, and that's exactly what it sounds like. So if you click on this, each backdrop has a number. So backdrop 1, and you can make more than one backdrop here in the backdrops. And what all you were doing there is you're going to, I want backdrop number 1 to appear of stage or Apple or whatever. Okay, so let's say it's clicked on Apple, it's talking about this sprite. All right, and you can't see banana because you're on banana. So if you are on the apple, for instance, then you could click this down and banana would be instead of apple. Then you and you can also choose backdrop name instead, or you can choose the volume. Well, do you need to know the volume of the stage or the apple? Well, I guess you might have to, because there could be music on there attached to those. Okay. So that's what that would be used for. Current year, this is pretty cool, very cool one. If you ever wanted to make yourself a little clock, let's say, for instance, I will get back to this in 1 second. I'm just going to finish these off right quick because these are really fast and I want to show you something with this. So, days since 2000, not exactly sure why you would need to know this. But if you click on it, it shows that there's been 9,150.42 days since the year 2000. Cool. Not sure why I would want to know that, but it's there. Here also is your username. This one here is useful. You will probably use this sometimes, especially if you plan on making multiplayer games where you need to know who is connected. You could have this attached somewhere to show the username or to say the username um, above the person's sprite so you know who it is, so you can get the bugs worked out and squished. And when you click on it, it's going to give you the username of the current person using it. Well, that's me right now, okay? So that's my username. Another way that I've seen this happen used before, I had a student. He had this really big clicker game and he wanted to test it out, but he needed currency from his game in order to test out the different buttons to make sure that they work properly. So instead of like clicking a million times to get the currency during the game, he had a button set up that when you clicked on it, it gave him, let's say, 1,000 gold and 10,000 of this other currency and blah, blah, blah. And it set himself up with a bunch of instant money and currency so that he could buy and test out his menus and his shops. And so when he started showing the game to his friends so they could help him test it, though, he didn't want them to get the free money. He needed them to test whether the clicking parts were good. So he wanted them to actually play. So what he did was he set up this: if the username of the player is equal to his username, yes, give him all the currency he wants. But if it was equal to anybody else's name, they would not be able to get the free stuff. So that's how he used that, and it worked fine. I mean, I get it. It is Scratch. You could just go find the code if you know what you're doing, and you could scrap this username code and just take it right out. I get that. But these kids didn't know how to use Scratch, so they wouldn't have known where to go. So he was laughing. All right? So that's a reason where you could use it. Okay, so let's go to the current year and etc. etc. I'm going to go here. I'm gonna explain variables in another video, but we're gonna create a seconds variable for all sprites, and we are going to bring a set seconds here, and we're gonna create a minutes, and we're gonna bring a set minutes, and we're gonna create a day. No, sorry, hours. We're gonna set an hours. Yeah. Then we're also going to go up to events when the green flag is clicked forever, right? It doesn't get any more simple than this. I want to set the current seconds. Yeah. I want to set current minute to minutes, and I want to set the current hours to hours. Okay. And bam, if you look up here, you spread this out, there you are. There's your clock. It was that easy. Okay, so it's constantly updating. And if you look down here, it's 6:21 a.m. Exactly like it says, and 12 seconds, 13 seconds. So that's, if you wanted to make yourself a little clock in game, there you go. Just like that. It was that easy. And you've seen it only took a few seconds to. Yeah. So that's just another little cool feature. To be honest, I didn't even know this existed in the game till yesterday. It might be something new, or it's just something I overlooked. But it is pretty neat, and you can actually change the year, the month, pretty much anything that has to do with time right here. Okay, so that's that. Just gonna throw that away. I'm gonna get rid of variables right quickly. And that's it anyway. That's going to cover this video. The next video, we're going to go over the operators, okay, the different booleans, all right, and the different methods of making equations. So we will hopefully see you in that video. Thank you very much for watching. If you don't mind hitting the like and subscribe button. And also, if you have any kind of questions about Scratch and coding, all right, that you might need help with your code, don't be afraid to ask. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I will try to help you. Yeah, leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.